Okay, we're good.
So welcome to the Westminster Historic District Commission meetings of January 4th at 7 o'clock. This is a virtual meeting, and I'm going to call us to order with our statement of authority. The Westminster Historic District Commission derives its authority from Chapter 164, Article 9A of the City Code, which is authorized by the Maryland Code Annotated Land Use Article Division 1, Single Jurisdiction Planning and Zoning, Title 8, Historic Preservations. The qualifications of the Westminster Historic District Commissioners are on file with the City Administration Building at 45 West Main Street. The file is open to the public. And I just want a quick head count for the roll call or record. So tonight we have Chris McMaster's chair. Who else do we have on the commission?
Kevin Wagman.
Thank you,
and,
Kevin.
and Josh Ambrose.
Thank you, Josh. And for city staff?
Mark Depot, the Director of Community Planning and Development.
Thank you, Mark.
Melissa Thorne, Economic Development Coordinator.
Thank you. So that's our full roster tonight. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right. So we have just a very few items of business this evening. Let's start with item A, update on the Historic District Commission proposed historic preservation implementation memo. And Melissa shared with me that Mark, you actually might be doing a little update.
Unfortunately, I don't have much. It's the same as last time. I was unable. I usually meet with Sarah Wednesdays. We could not meet today. We were both rather busy, so I didn't have a chance to get an update from her for time. I hope to talk to her tomorrow. So once I get a date certain, I'll just email the HTC itself. But as I recall, she is planning to meet with Chris this month. So I apologize. I wish I had a better answer for you for that one, but hope to have something for you by tomorrow.
She has made that commitment, however.
Yes, that was by January. That she was there was a lot of again, getting new staff in, a new administrative staff. So a lot of meetings were pushed basically to January. So I know she's very busy and she has a lot of meetings scheduled for this month, but she did commit to January.
Okay. And our very simple implementation plan, just as a review, it's not as global as the general management plan for the city or the planning thing for the city. It's simply taking the Historic District Commission's part of the city plan and breaking it into next lower level goals. We don't really have necessarily clear steps for each one of our goals, but it's an interim step towards accomplishing the city's master plan. Am I characterizing that correctly, Mark?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, there's still plenty of room for actually sharpening up the pencil, coming up with more specific steps, timelines, and who's responsible. And the reason why we're pursuing this, again, just as a recap, is that before we start really pledging time, money, staffing, and volunteers to any of the smaller implementation steps, we have a green light from the mayor and city council to pursue some of these intermediate goals to reach our larger preservation goals. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes.
I just thought I'd paint that picture one more time because we haven't talked about it specifically in a month or so. Do we have any comments from our commissioners?
No.
I'll chime in just to say, I think everybody here knows where I stand on this issue, but we've been having this discussion in one shape or another for a year. We prepared these documents months ago. We were given hope of having a meeting months ago. I'm giving up an evening with my children right now because I thought we were getting an update. on this. And Mark, I'm not trying to hold you or any other city staff responsible for that, but I'm rapidly approaching a point where I feel like my time and my volunteer hours are not being respected. And I will probably be bowing out if we don't get some movement on this in the very near future. So sorry if that sounds dramatic. That's not my intent. I'm just trying to be candid with you that if this isn't happening, I would like to know that ASAP.
Maybe it's worth reevaluating and look at because there are elements in that implementation plan that are not staff time driven. I think the larger elements of the of a demolition text amendment or requirements and some requirements for activity or what you may or may not be able to do for downtown. Those are much larger issues. I wonder if there's elements in the implementation strategy that this commission could just pull out and work on separately that isn't the time taxing, because we did remember there's multiple things in there, and
Yes,
there's some really heavy hitters that we know we really need direction from, but maybe there's some elements in there that that staff and HTC can move forward with.
I think that's a lovely idea, and I'm very open to that. My understanding is that we as a group have asked for discussion with the mayor, with city council, or the city manager, and we've been told that this needs to run through city manager. And again, I don't want to speak for the group, but I also don't want to waste my time coming up with recommendations or action items that do not have buy-in from our elected officials. So I think, I'm glad to hear that Sarah has promised to meet with Chris in the next couple of weeks. I will be very eagerly awaiting the results of that discussion.
that's exactly the kind of feedback I really want to hear too, Mark, about what things can we work on independently. Even if it doesn't have a great deal of staff time, things like improving our catalog of understanding of historic buildings in the district, those are grant related, and it may not be staff time that's intensive on it, but it still is going to require the city's buy-in to use an account number, if nothing else. And so to me, some of this stuff, I would need vocal, very enthusiastic feedback, even if the staff is doing minimal work. I could sign off on doing the paperwork and having staff sign off on the updates, but it's
regardless if we are using staff time, if the mayor, the city council, and the city director doesn't think we are doing right, then why are we even pursuing that? So to me, I'm like Josh. I stayed on because we wanted to do something. Personally, I was embarrassed how we handled the demolition, and still it is in limbo. So I am more than frustrated.
all right. Well, I can commit to keeping you guys as updated as I possibly can, and we'll wait to hear from city administrator.
Well, maybe if it's okay with the group, maybe Chris, you and I sit down and go over that memo again, and maybe there are elements that we pull out that we're more prepared to say these are elements we would like to move forward with internally HTC that don't need really mayor and common council approval like a text amendment would. Because and I agree with Josh, I don't want to get in front of the mayor and common council when there's still some elements that we could still be working on that may not need that initial approval by the mayor and common council. Because I do think there are elements that staff would normally work on that aren't guided by or approved by the Mayor and Common Council.
Well, I'm happy to work with you, Mark. Just contact me. My bad time is Wednesday mornings, but other than that, I'm pretty flexible.
Okay, and that might be a good direction too, because eventually when we get in front of Sarah, that maybe we can pull out these items, either items that staff and HCC are comfortable with working now, while we work for the higher items that are being requested, being looked at by the Mayor and Common Council.
Frankly, it might help her make decisions too, because a white page of stuff all looks like staff time. And if we can pull out what's possible with less staff time or with less time in front of the Mayor and Common Council, that might help her make some decisions.
Yeah, but and for me, I'm more comfortable now that Melissa's on board and having that extra person on staff, that I wasn't so willing to commit time where I think I can commit more staff time on those items, like I said, that I think we possibly could move forward with. I think it's just improvements anyway for downtown Main Street and for educational purposes. Maybe those are the elements we look at, so the HTC can continue moving forward and trying to check off some of these items, as like I said, until we get better direction for some of the larger elements.
And it can't hurt for me to have a better understanding. For example, one of the suggestions we made was to plump up maybe the downtown corridors tax credit to 20%. In a strange set of my head, I feel like, how hard is that? Changing it from 10 to 20%, run it through the city lawyer, couple of public meetings, limited time. That doesn't sound hard, but it may be much harder than I think. So, Mark, you can help fill me in.
And again, I think that's a much easier process. Again, and there's multiple elements in this too, that some we could be working just internally with HTC on. There are elements that could move faster through the Mayor and Common Council process, because it's not a text amendment. Well, it is, but it isn't. It's not a lengthy one. We're changing one element of it. It's not creating something new like regulations for downtown, which could take quite some time to go through its process. So, Chris, maybe I think I don't think we've done that, and maybe that's a worthwhile approach also, to kind of, break those out. Which ones do we believe we can do internally that aren't needing Mayor and Common Council approval? Which ones do, and then which ones we can push forward faster?
That would be really good, and I would learn a lot about what kind of commitment Sarah's going to see on paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have any more discussion, Josh or Kevin?
No, I think that, if we can find some substantive ways to engage in this discussion and move the needle, I think that could be worth our time. So look forward to hearing more updates.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, well, let's move on then to item B, National History Day. I just sent out some additional information for National History Day through the Carroll County Expo information. It's February 25th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Westminster High School. There is a snow date of March 4th. They have recently sent out another request to set up a table, and I haven't done this in recent years just because I didn't want to sit there all day all by myself. I thought maybe I could appeal to Kevin or Josh, Chris and Grace as well, as to whether or not you'd like to come on that day. And it's a little bit like we do for the Spring Flower and Jazz Festival service shift. Get some materials. We'll get Melissa to dig up some old city stuff that we've used in the past, and it's a good dry run for Melissa for the Flower and Jazz Festival. And have a tablecloth out and have a chance to talk to young people and their parents. I also send out our agenda from the December meeting and November notes. Unfortunately, they don't have their December meeting notes available, and I wasn't at that meeting on the 29th. So really, your best bet to find out more about the Frontiers of History topic that they'll be doing is to click onto the website for the local National History Day, Carroll County National History Day, and they'll be using the themes of frontiers of history. And they like to pick those kind of themes that are really broad. Like one year it was communication, a couple of years ago. So they'd like to pick really broad themes so the students are free to kind of narrow in on what they think a frontier of history is. The types of things they'll be competing about are essays. I used to call them précis. They were like annotated bibliographies, websites. There is some documentaries the kids can create. So they have a lot of different ways of expressing this year's theme of frontiers in history. And if you click on the website that's included in here for the National History Day, Carroll County, you can see all the junior and senior categories, and you can see all the different ways they can compete. The kids should have been working on this since maybe September, October. They've had some months. And last year, some of the projects they did were fabulous. And during the History Expo, you can go in and hear them do their presentations. Usually they have a computer set up so you can see the website or the documentary that they created. But it is at this time and day that the awards are made, the final judging comes through, and the kids get their notice that they've won. Later, we can actually award things. Our gift again this year is just a simple letter of acknowledgement for kids who talk about the theme of frontier of history within the historic district of Westminster. We have not historically had many kids apply for that. So we haven't been able to have that as a winner gift. And if kids apply this year for that local award, we could devise something where that letter is presented by the mayor and common council, or some kind of photo op where we take a picture of downtown Westminster with the kids in the background. I mean, there are creative ways that we could make the award if kids apply. So is there anyone tonight who are prepared to say they'd like to be with me on March 25th? I mean, February 25th?
Chris, I don't know that I can be there for the whole time, but I'm certainly happy to join you for a couple hours.
Great. Kevin, do you think you're available?
I'll think about it and check my calendar.
All right, great. And then hopefully both Chris and Grace will have a chance to look at this recording tonight, and they too will want to participate. So
can I ask one clarifying question?
Sure.
I know at our last meeting, Mark said that we do have money set aside, for a budget. And I know that we haven't had time to advertise that, or, certainly it can't influence anything at this point. But I wonder, let's say we have an essay or there is a submission that's really incredible. Are we able to reward it at that point with, not just a letter, but, maybe, a little something.
I think it would be problematic because in some ways kids would say, well, wait a minute, I would have changed my topic for this gift. If it's something simple like the Westminster Opoly game we used to give away on occasion, or something else sort of non-monetary, I would think there'd be no problem with that. But if you actually get into gift certificates of some sort, I think we might be running afoul with the idea that, there's a whole suite of gifts out there. The kids made their choices and did their research, hopefully not based on those awards, but with those in mind. What do you all think?
So an awful lot of my day job is administering gifts and awards to students. And I think you make an excellent point. I will say, though, that I do see value on some sort of giveaway because it could help create buzz for next year. Sure. So, maybe maybe it's dinner with the commission at a restaurant, or maybe it's, you know, a certain selection of books from the Historic Society bookstore, or, you know, we could think about what the reward is, but I would encourage us to think about doing something, if for nothing else, than to create more engagement for next year.
Mark, do we have any kind of things that the city might have that we could use? Do you know of anything?
Not that I can think of. We can always do a plaque or something like that that we've handed out for other things as well. I kind of, and Chris, I kind of think the opposite way. If all the other applications or categories had a monetary or a gift, and the one that didn't, and somebody actually spent time on the one that didn't, I find that I think that's kind of special. So to have a nice surprise gift for that individual, I think would be interesting.
All right, well, so
That's just, but no, but we'll look into, maybe it is a plaque, or maybe it is a little an award or something like that. We can certainly do.
I'm gonna say under the December 16th agenda, you have a list of what's been offered, and it runs a suite from Union Mills, which is given $100 out in cash, Mount Airy $250, Carroll County Rec and Parks $50, Historical Society a $25 gift card and an annual membership, Carroll County Public Library $50, the Farm Museum $50, and the Carroll County Commissioners $50. You have to keep in mind there's a junior and senior. So if it's a $50 gift, it's one for the junior and for the senior. So all these amounts are basically doubled from what you might have just heard from me. And there are a number of groups that have nothing listed. So we're not the only group that hasn't got a cash award.
Well, we do have money in the budget for something, so I think we have some time to think about what we might want to get. But I'm all for that, something to provide for somebody, because I agree it extends to next year as well. So I can make sure that's included in the budget as well. If we want to start thinking about more monetary gifts or awards.
I definitely think next year we should absolutely have something budgeted in, so that when they start asking us for what awards we're giving in August or September, we'll have it in the package. Don't have to discuss it. It's already pre-planned.
I think it would be nice also if we want to think about the, and this a little bit off track, but we have $1,500 and we have not spent money, the HDC, for the last few years. Maybe we start thinking about how we may want to spend that money this fiscal year. If there are signs or elements that I know, Chris, you probably have some ideas, and Josh and Kevin, of things we could have purchased and we haven't in the past. Maybe it's something we start thinking about sooner than later.
Well, we've got two things I can think of right now, Mark, while I got you on that track. And one is there's a Maryland Commission of Historic Districts. And I think there was a $150 or $200 a year membership fee to the city. And every one of us as commissioners usually then get the newsletter. And I haven't seen that in a while. Kevin, have you seen that in a while? I think we might have let our membership lapse.
Okay, that's an easy one.
That's a really good one, because you see ideas from other historic district commissions. And then secondly, years ago, we used to have these business cards to say Westminster Historic District Commission and your name and the address at the city, not our personal phone numbers, not our personal addresses. And these were great to just hand away to people when you're talking to them about their houses. And I know a run of these aren't too expensive, but it would be great if we all got them.
Okay.
I'm going to rabbit trail here for just a moment, if you'll excuse me. Are there any parameters on that money per se? Like, if we at one point wanted to run our own sort of little mini competition for whoever cleans up their storefront the most, or whoever puts in the most tasteful historic signage as part of a special display. I mean, especially as we revise this document, I wonder if we could create with some of that money, some $500 or $1,000 things. And not only that, I think if there's a vehicle for this, other people might even contribute. I personally would throw in some money if we did something like, clean your storefront and, have the committee judge it. Because shout out to the Westminster community. Some of our storefronts are a little shabby right now. Could use a little spit shine. Anyways, could we create, is that within the realm of this money that we as the historic district could create a little mini incentive program that we administer that is in line with all these other discussions we're having?
I have to look into that. I mean, the money's earmarked for the HDC for the historic district. So I've never heard of any parameters to it. The taking additional funds and money into a program, I'm not too sure how that works. But this is certainly the time. I know we haven't had this discussion in the past. It's only $1,500. If we're looking at some programs and things to better downtown, what about signage on historic buildings that maybe there's an additional fee we can help people pay for new signage if they want it? There's certainly a lot of things I think the HDC can look at for funding, but maybe I think that's a discussion we need to have to see if I can ask for additional funds for next year. If I have a clear cut understanding of what we're trying to do, I'll take that to Sarah to
well, that's one of our implementation ideas, is making sure that the historic district is clearly signed. And I would love to have a set of like 12 signs that say you're entering the historic district. And then on the back, thanks for visiting the historic district. Because people right now don't really know even the edges of the district.
Yeah.
And maybe if it's not individuals giving money to the city to partner with this, I bet we could very easily find some other partners downtown, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce or Magic and some of the work they're trying to do with tourism and the historic society. I bet there's some ways where we could get creative in leading a charge to incentivize some of these improvements that we all say that we want to see.
Yeah, the Community Foundation, one of those groups, ought to be able to partner with us long enough to accept funds. It'd be great. Okay, good. Okay. So we were on the topic of National History Day. I understand both Kevin and Josh say they are willing to be helpful. Josh says he needs a slot. Kevin needs thought. Chris and Grace need to be tapped on the shoulder more personally. But if there's anything else we need to know about National History Day, let me know. I'd like to tell them we could have 1 or 2 judges, but that requires more time and energy. I'm willing to be a judge. I have been in the past. If you two would like to be judges, let me know, but it's a time crunch. You have a very short time, less than a week to do judging, and they'll assign you 20 or 30 projects. In the past, it's all been online, so I can kind of work on them at my own pace. But now that we're more present, we might have to actually show up like the night or 2 before and be there judging. So it is a time commitment.
If it's online, I'm happy to help. If it's in person, I won't be able to.
Okay. Good to know. All right. Anything else on National History Day? Nope. Okay. Historic District Facebook page. So I mentioned that last meeting, and I sent off the copy of the banner head on Facebook to Melissa, hoping she could figure out who actually controls that Facebook. Do you know, Melissa?
So I did not figure out who controls it. I want to just do a screen share so we can look at it together. I will show you. Hold on just a second. Okay, I think it's this one. Can you see it? There's a
Forehead
forehead.
lady.
So what it appears to be is a landmark and historical place set up. And it does mention unofficial page, not associated with Westminster Historic District. So the content here is all, it maybe like folks are tagging when they're in the historic district. So it's fairly relevant. Some things are kind of irrelevant when you scroll down, but you know, that was the local event that we just had in November with the tree. So yeah, you had mentioned it. So this is the one we talked about. So I'm not sure if you guys
Well, I
what
would
we
love to
want to
know
do with this.
how do we get admin rights so we can get rid of forehead lady and put something in?
It is comical. Is this a picture also on the profile that relates to the city? Do you recognize that?
Can you blow that up?
I can't. Double click in.
So I'm working off my phone.
Okay.
I
Can
just have
see.
oh yeah.
All right, I'll X out of that. So I'm not even sure if there's a way I gotta move my Zoom here to message anybody about it. You can call. There's a phone number associated.
Is it a city phone or just a person?
An 816 area code. That's just somebody's cell phone, probably.
Wow. There is another Westminster that's not in Maryland. I mean, for all we know, the person who set this up could have been in Colorado where the other Westminster is.
So there are like the descriptors and a map that does link it to the Maryland address. And if you see, here's a description.
So I think we should lobby to get admin rights to this and rethink it.
And the picture of John Coakley Jr., I know John, but I don't know how he would be associated with historic district to us.
So just from my experience with Facebook, if someone were to reach out to this number and say, could you change, the cover page to make it more relevant? They could do all of that, but what it comes down to is we need to figure out what a landmark and historical place page is, and if there's anything you can do with that, or if it's something that you have control to like, is this something that you want to continue to develop content and manage a page, or is it just wanting this to look a little more relevant?
Personally, I just finished managing the page for the Historical Society and handed that off January 1. I would love to throw in some energy to updating our Historic District Commission page. But I would create it so that we would have a number of administrators so that when one person loses energy, there's another couple people to pick up the pieces. But if it is an official one, the city had better think about whether they want someone who's not employed by the city as an admin,
Right. And we just recently performed an audit of the social media pages that the city runs. And there's one for downtown Westminster, Maryland. We have one for the citywide Westminster, Maryland. Parks and Rec has their own department page. Mark, I don't believe we have any for a commission at this point, or that are volunteer run.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah, so that
commission?
might be a discussion.
The Tree Commission doesn't even have one? My goodness, that would be a natural Facebook.
So as far as this page goes, I think this one, would not be related to that anyways, as it was set up as a historical place and landmark page. I could look into what that exactly means. I didn't do any research prior to the meeting today, but just from my experience, my guess is this is not the direction we want to go in.
Okay. Well, let's put it this way. I'm happy with any direction, but I would love to be part of building content and having a more forward space in the social media world.
Okay.
I actually used to do pretty good at Twitter and Facebook, both Pinterest and Instagram. I'm okay with, but that takes a little measure of more expertise. But I'm okay with both of them. It'd be nice to jump into the social realm with our stuff. I think that'd be great.
Okay. Well, that'll be something, Mark, we can talk about. And
Absolutely. And we're also just the Westminster website itself. Melissa's now starting to work on updating this department's pages, and I think we'd be looking at Planning Commission, Historic District Commission, and BZA as well. So if you're bored and just want to take a peek at the HDC page, any suggestions, things that are lacking, I can see right away that we do not have the new member on the HDC page. I just noticed that, so that needs to be updated. But absolutely, yeah, I think there's a lot of information that we could also provide on the webpage that we don't currently provide for people in downtown historic district.
Yep. Well, and also you kind of have to look at your goals of social media. And the Historical Society, I had some very defined goals of having a post every other day, only local, only attenuated to the Historical Society. And we had a social media calendar every month that a number of us stuck to, so that we weren't stepping on each other's posts. You don't want to have a post out that's fairly important, like we canceled the Historic District Commission's meeting, and 5 minutes later have another one that steps on that message that says, hey, look, I found a historic recipe for punch. You want to you want to set up a calendar that's got some parameters, and then if something of importance comes along at the last minute, you can always pin it. But you want to have a small circle of people who have access and have the discipline to put things out at a regular basis, even if it's just twice a month. So I'd be happy to jump into something like that. That'd be fun. Okay, any more discussion on the Historic District Facebook page? Any ideas from anyone? Any resources? Does anybody know a media person who might come right along and help us out?
I know nothing about Facebook, so.
Oh, you might. My expertise might be the best. That is sad. Okay.
Chris, if ever helpful, I'm happy to help strategize. I deleted my Facebook account multiple years ago, but certainly my teams run multiple social accounts, and I have a lot of thoughts on how to do it well. So if that's ever helpful, just let me know.
Well, we might want to come up with a social media policy. It just talks about what's our goals and what's acceptable. And that I can crib. I wrote one for the Historical Society, so I can steal that right out of there.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because ultimately we could then potentially at some point offer an internship for either a high school student or a college student here in town. So having those documents created will help create some sustainability for the approach.
Well, real organizational employees want to have that social media policy so that people don't call them up and say, hey, I found this cool map of Union Mills. Why don't they let me put it on our, Westminster's Facebook? You have your social media policy that says, no, this is the content we accept, and this is why. And people are cranky out there. I've banned people who've been just unnecessarily critical or cryptic things, didn't like certain festivals we were involved with, and you've got to have that paperwork before you launch into social media that says, look, this is what we've all agreed to. There's maybe things that come up we haven't thought about, but we've got to start. I think I just signed myself up for something. So let me look into what I can do. Quick like a bunny. All right, any other new business? Nothing? Okay, we have no public on the Zoom call, as I understand. Is that true, Melissa?
Right, nobody else is here tonight.
So, Josh, do you have anything you want to share from over the holidays?
No, ma'am. I would be remiss if I didn't do an occasional shout out. I think many of you know the Hey Westminster group I'm associated with. And as we talk about partnership organizations, I'll just, for the public record, encourage folks to check out heywestminster.com. And this is an opportunity for anyone in Westminster, whether it is a youth, whether it is a shop owner, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a school, literally anyone in Westminster who has an idea for making our community more awesome can submit a proposal for at least $1,000 worth of funding. And the group is happy to consider all of those. And so we do look for projects that are based here in Westminster. We haven't had one focused on history, and I would really love to see a history project come through the door. So putting that out there in the universe. And again, if anybody wants to learn more, I'm happy to talk about that. But they can just look at heywestminster.com.
Well, thank you, Josh. I think that's the first time I ever heard it put that way. I got a project with the Westminster Cemetery I'm going to contact you on for sure to find out where
that would be great. That would be great. I should note we did fund the Ellsworth Cemetery a few months ago, half a year ago. So I guess that one, it was more for upkeep and it wasn't as much for storytelling about the history. So that's kind of, I think, where my brain was at. So I should backtrack a little bit. We did do that. So there was some history involved in that one.
Right. And once again, what's the dollar range?
It's $1,000 is our baseline. That comes with an incredible multimedia video that one of our partners donates their time to do. And so that video is worth, honestly, more than $1,000. And then we also have a limited number of nonprofit funds to give out because we partner with the Callert Foundation here in town. So any nonprofit gets special consideration for additional dollars.
Woo-hoo. I love it. Thank you so much, Josh. I never heard it. I've heard you talk about it before, but I've never heard it put that way to make me think. Thank you. Kevin, do you have anything to report?
Only a comment. I heard lots of people like the Christmas tree lights downtown. So again, that brought a notoriety to downtown, and people commented they even drive to downtown to see lights. So kudos whoever thought of that idea. I think being positive about things is a good way to go. Other than that, I wanted to wish everybody a happy new year. Other than that, nothing.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Boy, you are a shining light tonight. Yes, I love the lights too. And I think people are just looking for those kind of opportunities. It's great. Okay, I have didn't do much over the holidays, so I really don't have much to report as your chair. Just had COVID, so that was about it for me. Anything from city staff?
The lights, thank you. That was a big push by Sarah. I know, working with the Mayor and Common Council, the lights there. We also have speakers downtown, if everybody's been
Yes.
downtown listening to music. Now this is a starting process for us, so we still haven't really we're still working on the type of music after the holidays. So just give us some time on that. Still a work in progress. One thing about the lights that I did want to point out, we do get a lot of phone calls. Why can't we extend the lights up further up and down Main Street? The lights are where the electricity is. That's where the poles are located. So we're limited as to where we can put the lights right now. So I know that we get that a lot. Why can't you extend them further? We just don't have poles with electricity as we extend further up or down Main Street. Just keeping you guys abreast of what's going on. Kevin, you've probably seen 30 West Green Street. There's some work going on there. That's being renovated. They were apartment units. It's being renovated for apartments, which is nice. I did get a tour of that. That should look really nice when it's complete. The Vince's Seafood, my understanding, there are some people really interested in purchasing that site. So we may see something coming in for that. The old Furnace Hill Coffee Shop. They are proposing a 2-story addition on the back end, and we'll bring that to the HDC next week for apartment buildings for 2 apartments. That's at least a proposal. And the 56 West Main Street, the old city administration building, is also being looked at for reuse. And they may be proposing some architectural or elevation changes that we would also bring back to the HDC for review. So a lot of things. We're seeing some interest in downtown, which is awesome. So I just wanted to kind of update. If you see things happening, that's kind of where we are. I have no update on a wonderful property that is still demoed. I know he's still working on the engineering for some aspects of it, working with the county on some elements, but he is planning on moving forward.
Have you got any thoughts about White's Bicycle? Do we know if that's considered up for demolition, or if that's going to be, does anyone know anything about that project or that property?
I do not. My understanding wasn't damaged too badly.
Okay.
And this is coming from some discussions with Council Member Dayhoff and some other people that were there as part of the fire engines and the companies that were there putting out the fire. But no, we haven't heard anything about that or the coffee music shop. Again, I think there's interest in coffee music. I just haven't heard anything specific about that one.
I didn't know the extent of the fire damage, and I just was worried we'd have another demo request coming up. So
yeah, my understanding that was more smoke damage than anything. Either side business operated. They took a day to clean and a day open either side the next day. So it was, and the building, my understanding, was bought by somebody years ago. I was kind of shocked that 30 people lived up there.
yeah.
I can see I'm making up 10, 12, but 30? I know it's big, but I was amazed that had 30 people living up there, according to the paper.
Okay. All righty, well then, if there's no other information or news to share for the good of the group, shall we adjourn? All right, well then, thank you, everybody. I hope to see you all next month and talk to you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.